Okay, let me just start with some housekeeping. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here this evening with us. The structure of this event will first be introductions, then a conversation with Dr. Lisa Platero Brown, and lastly, some time to take questions and comments. If you have any technical difficulties, feel free to type in your concern in the chat box and I'll assist you there. To ask a question or make a comment, you may raise your hand to be unmuted, or you can type it in the chat box or that Q&A box, and we will address them at the appropriate time. Let me introduce you to Dr. Lisa Platero Brown. Native American author, educator, and entrepreneur, Dr. Lisa Platero Brown has spent the last decade serving her family as a wife to her husband, Nate, and mom to her two beautiful children, Taylor and Timothy. Lisa grew up on the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico, where family meals were more than food. They were a lifeline that connected her back to her family, culture, and heritage, providing her great joy, strength, and perseverance. Lisa founded the Living Full Company and authored the Living Full Cookbook, Making Family Meals Abundantly Good. Her desire is to see the family unit strengthened through sharing meals together. Lisa hopes to inspire families to shop, plan, cook, and spend quality time with the people who matter, each other. Please welcome Dr. Lisa Platero Brown and the Living Full Cookbook, Making Family Meals Abundantly Good. Welcome, Dr. Lisa Platero Brown, everyone. This is a wonderful lady, and I am so excited to have a discussion with her. First, please tell us about yourself and how you discovered your passion for food and cooking.
Yes, hello, Jessica. Thank you so much. I just want to express really quickly, thank you all so much for having me. It's a joy and an honor to be able to communicate with you over this platform this evening, and of course to celebrate Native American Heritage Month. I'm honored and humbled to share my story with you all and to answer your questions this evening. Just want to introduce myself in my native language in Navajo. Yat esh Lisa Platero Brown Unishet, Twadik Onjanishle, Twadik Eatney Bashichin, Helsoe Deshiche, Destiny Edeshinelle. Thank you so much. I'm so excited again to be here. And to tell you more about myself, I grew up initially in Arizona and I moved to New Mexico. So I like to claim residency in both states. I spent a lot of time in Arizona and in New Mexico, but majority of it on the Navajo Reservation. And so I really discovered this passion for food and family until much later in life. I focused on my education for about 2/3 of my life. It takes a while to get past, your bachelor's, master's, and to obtain a doctorate. I think in total is like 9 years or something like that. It took a while for me to achieve my degrees and my education, which I'm very thankful for. My family had always been very supportive in encouraging me to pursue my degree, my education, and to use that education to help our people, our communities in order to thrive. And so that's what I did. As soon as I left home from high school, I went to college and I went to Arizona State. Go Sun Devils. And I attained my bachelor's there in kinesiology, movement science, and my master's in education. And that's really where my passion for children, the home, and families began in obtaining my degree in licensing and teaching. And I immediately began working for the Phoenix Unified School District in the inner cities, serving minority youth in grades K through 12. And then going on to pursue my doctorate degree in education and leadership and working for the Community College in Scottsdale, Arizona, and working with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community there. And that reignited a whole nother passion for helping my Native American people and ever since I moved from Arizona. I currently reside in Texas now, but ever since I moved, I've been having to work super extra hard to stay connected to my family and my home life, and living off the reservation. Life is so different. But I'm glad that I could have written and pursued this passion project that connected me back home to my family, to my homeland, and also led me down a path to discover a new love for family and food. And so this is where it all started, since I was a little girl, just my family, being at home with them and preparing good food. And it's created so many good memories and allowed me to write this project, which I'm so happy to share with you all this evening.
Thank you so much. You touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask, growing up on the Navajo Reservation in New Mexico must have been a unique experience. How would you say that experience has influenced your cooking?
Oh, it's influenced my cooking quite a bit. My parents, so my mom, she worked for the Indian Health Service for many, many years, like over 40 years. And we moved back and forth between Gallup and Window Rock and all around New Mexico. I lived in Grants for a little while. And so being in the different communities as close as they are on and off the reservation, the greatest influence has always been that Mexican American fusion with Native American. And so that has influenced my food quite a bit. And I will say, growing up in New Mexico, the hatch chilies, the red chilies, have been my favorite ingredients to cook with. And I love, the different seasons and the foods, the harvests that come in different seasons throughout the year. That's a big factor in what I use when I cook. And so with the seasons, it changes. I know we just finished hatch chili season, which I'm kind of sad about, but I like to freeze and store that. So I'm looking forward to next year's harvest. But it all really comes down to the land and what's available in the area. So being in New Mexico, of course, the onions, the chilies, the garlic, all of those things have played a big part in how I flavor food. And of course, being health conscious and nutritionally conscious of foods, I like to incorporate all of that, what is naturally grown locally, as well as the color, because in New Mexico, there is so much vibrancy and color, and the food is just as rich as the culture and the heritage of the area. So I'm really glad to have grown up in New Mexico and in Arizona, and to use and to fuse that together in some of my cooking and my family recipes.
Awesome. I also am devastated. Chili harvest is over. I love the smell in the air. I don't think I froze enough. Now I'm worried.
I feel the same way. There's never enough that you can cook, because you can get a whole box and it'll make just so much,
Right. So tell us about your cookbook. Has it been a long time coming? Have you always wanted to publish a cookbook? So how did it come to fruition?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before about my mom moving, we moved around a lot, and she worked all the time. And so my father is a silversmith, and he worked all the time. And so, thank the Lord for grandmothers, grandmothers. Both of my grandmothers have had a big hand in helping to raise me and teaching me how to cook, how to bake. My father's mother, my Shanella, loved to bake. She was always baking, and she was big on making soups and stews and beans. And what I loved about her cooking style was she would involve me. She would always include me whenever we go to the kitchen, and I knew when she was getting ready, when she would tie her hair up in a handkerchief and she'd put on her apron, I would get happy, because I knew grandma was about to bake. She was about to make something. And so I would, we would wash our hands and we would sit together at the table. And I tell a story in the cookbook. I have a ham hock and bean recipe that I dedicated to her. And so we would sit together and sort the dry beans. And that was just a peaceful time for us to get together and talk and communicate. And that's really where the communication piece began for me. It was a place where I could let down my guard, I could be myself, I could feel heard, and she would hear all the things that I was saying, and she would give me advice and wisdom and teach me things here and there, like this is how you would do this, and this is what you would add with the sage and the seasonings and different things like bay leaves. And it just, that's how it was for me at an early age. My grandmothers were very patient with me. And I just appreciate that they had that natural motherly instinct to teach and to share with their grandchildren these life skills. Not only did she teach me how to cook, but they taught me how to sew, how to make biscuits, and those kinds of skills you take for granted, through your middle years, high school years. But once I left for college and I was on my own, that's when some of those things started to kick in. And I thought, I need to learn how to cook. And then when I got married, wow, like you have a husband now and you have children, you have your children, and I have, and I just needed to just get better. I had to be patient with myself and learning, that my kids and my husband's needs, and respond to that, adapt to that, and build this. We have this family dynamic that's incredible that we've shaped over the years. And it all, I can say a majority of it has contributed to family meals. Our relationship, our connectivity is because we've been very intentional on teaching and helping one another in the kitchen and around the table and having these conversations. But it all started back with my grandmothers and helping me. And so when the pandemic happened, life came to a screeching halt. And it was fun to go out to eat. It was fun to be able to go out and do things. But then all of a sudden that came to a stop. And so it was like I had to reprioritize how we did life. We all did. And so it came back to family meals. It came back to the things that really matter. And making home cooked meals is actually healthier for you. So the pandemic kind of led to that passion of going back to the kitchen, going back to the basics, actually writing down my recipes. For years, I've devoted a lot of cooking recipes to memory, especially family recipes. And so being able to write them down, I just thought, what, this is something that I could leave for my children. This is something potentially they could use in the future. And so I started to collect a variety of recipes. And I thought, what, I think I could do this. I think I could really turn this into a cookbook. It is something I've wanted to do for a very long time. I just didn't have the time. I was just busy with other things. And so when I decided to slow it down, we were home a lot more during the pandemic. It really gave me that time, a full year in 2020 into 2021, to just focus on it, write it. I spent many late nights working on it, and I'm just so happy it's here, and I'm glad that we're talking about it today.
Definitely. It's beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
who is your cookbook for?
That's a good question. When I started writing it, I knew I wanted to include recipes for not only to include and to celebrate our culture as a Native American family. My family is a mixed family. We have Native American, my husband is African American, which you'll see in the cookbook. We have some family photos in there. And he's also part Creek Native American. And so we're just a whole mixture of different cultures and backgrounds, and it's beautiful. And I think that with this cookbook, not only do we celebrate that, but we celebrate just family meals in general. So it's not really a matter of a certain age group that I try to appeal to, or a certain group of a certain race, but it really is for the young, it's for the elders, it's for beginners, it's for experts. So no matter your age or your skill level, I was very intentional on creating and having recipes for all, and food that is nutritious across the board, and especially for children. So a lot of cookbooks out there are great. You can cook chicken sachatori and some fancy foods, but that's kind of not always ideal on a Monday night, when you're tired and it's late. I've put in a variety of skill levels in this cookbook for people to enjoy. And if they want to taste the New Mexico, it's there. If you don't have to be from New Mexico to like New Mexico cuisine, or if you want to have a pizza party, a pizza night, I wanted to include a cauliflower pizza crust. If you want to feed the babies and the children, there's some baby food recipes, some smoothies, some detox water recipes. There's just a variety, and that's what I wanted, was variety, because that's what our family is. We love a variety of flavors and textures and tastes, and I wanted to include that in this cookbook. So it really is for all people.
Thank you. I agree. There's something in there for everybody.
Absolutely.
So what is the Living Full Toolbox?
Okay. So more than just meals, and I've been sharing this when I talk to people about it. The cookbook is more than just meals, but it is meals with a message. And I wanted to not just leave my audience with just recipes, here you go, go make food, but I really wanted to share the value and the importance of family meals and the heart. I think what really makes good food is the heart and the preparation that goes into it. When you are prepared, when you are aware of something that is important, you kind of can look at it with a different perspective. It can cause you to have, if you see something as valuable, such as your family, you see the value of preparing something that has more nutrition, and you realize the effects of that can be, if it can be positive over time, you can prioritize it a little bit more. So I wanted to make sure that my audience is more aware of the importance of family meals. And so the toolbox includes a variety of information. So I have a doctorate, I have a background in research. I wanted to make sure that you all understand what I was feeling, what I was learning. And that is to share with you some of the statistics behind family meals and why it is important. So just to give you a little taste of that, families who come together, who gather in a common space, especially families with school-age children, youth, young people, the children and the youth are more likely to communicate. They're more likely to have less issues, life issues, anxiety, depression, fear, less likely to be depressed, less likely to have eating disorders, more likely to have a positive attitude toward grades, or they're likely to have a positive attitude towards school and have better grades. So those are just some of the examples of why family meals are important. So I wanted to lay that out and present it to you in a way that is organized, so that I just did 10 reasons. So it's not like a journal, it's not an academic journal. So the likelihood of someone gaining access to an academic journal is a little more work, and I organized it in the cookbook, so it's laid out, it's simple, it's easy to understand. And I also share the importance of just taking the time to buy local if you can. Buying local is important for our local economy. No matter where you are preserving land when you are supporting your local farmers. It's healthier eating if you can buy local. I think you're going to ask me that in a minute, so I'm not gonna go too deep in that one. So I'll save that for the next question. But you support land preservation, and so I share also why it is important to buy from your local farmers market. And feeding a crowd is also something that is a big deal in my family. And I think for most families, you have the holidays where you're feeding more people than just those who live in the home. So I wanted to share that as well. I love to host, And so I share with you place settings, how you could set up family style, buffet style, feeding a crowd, providing menus for a larger crowd. And I put all of that together just to make it easier on you. It's enough work as a cook. So I wanted to provide the resources for you all to be able to serve your families well, to serve your dinner guests well, and make them feel at home.
Yeah, that is so helpful. I don't think I've ever known how to properly place a table, and you provide such clear examples and illustrations. It's perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome.
You also talk about keeping a positive perspective when preparing meals. Can you explain some of the ways that you keep a positive perspective when you're preparing meals with your family?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, with the knowing the statistics and being aware of what family meals can do, a lot of organizations and universities are actually conducting studies now about how family meals can benefit the average family. So regardless of your social status, regardless of age, regardless of your income, family meals really does have the power to create and not create, but inspire families to be healthier and happier. And so, and it also strengthens the relationship between family members. So just knowing that alone has really shaped the way that I cook and the way I plan. You know, we plan for a lot of different things. And honestly, I mean, let's be real, there's so many things that is taking I shouldn't say taking, but there's so many things that are that fill our day-to-day schedules. You know, we're busy and it's hard. And I will say it really is hard to have and plan a family meal. But when you know that what you're doing is beneficial, not just for, to feed your family for the night, but over time. And, it is recommended to have a family meal at least 3 times a month, 3 times a week. If you can do that, the youth and the children are less likely to smoke marijuana and drink alcohol. There's a ton of statistics around that. And if you know that if I can unplug from the busy world and plug in with my family and plug in with my child who, may be dealing with some things within their day-to-day lives that I don't know about, a family meal is the perfect occasion to be able to talk with one another and share, your support for one another. And so that's for me is huge. So knowing that, I definitely try to make it a priority as much as possible and schedule those family meals whenever we can. It is just like anything else. You can schedule it, try to keep it on your calendar if you can, pick a few days out of the week with your family. I can suggest, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Pick those days. Those are the non-negotiables where, our family's going to come together. We're going to make this together. We can have a fun family food competition. Parents get creative and try to involve the whole family and the children and everybody. And that way it'll feel less likely. It'll feel less like a chore. That's what I'm trying to say. It'll feel less like a chore and more like, something fun that everybody can enjoy and be a part of. So that's the way I try to keep a positive perspective. Try to make it fun for yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice. And huge about the statistics to just keep that in mind, that you're doing this and it's going to make a difference for your family. You've already talked a little bit, but maybe if you did have anything more to add about why it's so important for people to shop and eat local foods. Yeah, you talked a lot about it. Preserving land is really important. And but anything else you want to add to that?
I could just add one more thing, and that's just peak taste. If it's grown locally and if it's coming from your local farmer's market, there is less time between where it is on the farm, wherever it was harvested, to your table. So sometimes foods are pumped with, preservatives and different things, that chemicals that really is not, as it's not healthy. And so I try to buy organic when I can. Not everything is organic. I realize that some things do need to be preserved. And I've had my share of things that I've had to throw out, vegetables that went bad in the trap. I've been guilty of that, because when you buy organic, you literally have to cook it within a matter of hours or within the day or two. And, sometimes we get so busy, our vegetables and our produce just sits out and it goes really bad. But I think if we can buy local and support our local farmers, we not only support the local economy and help families who farm, we are providing our families with some of the best nutrition in non-GMO, chemically treated produce. And peak taste is always better. Natural is always better. And one of the things I do provide in the toolbox also are some of the brands that I've used, and that I use them in different recipes that are, they have less sugar, they're lower carb, they have low sodium. So not all healthy food has to taste bad. Even food that is jarred and in cans, you can still cook healthy and use them to make delicious recipes for you and your family. So, and I love to support local farmers. There are some people here in Texas, they jar and they can, and they pickle produce. So you can preserve vegetables that way if you don't want to do it yourself, because that is very time consuming. But I make jam too. So I understand the work behind all of that. And so we want to support our local farmers. I think I saw a statistic the other day that like every minute, an acre of land is lost to development. And so we want to preserve land. And I think that's important to do that, in supporting our local farms and helping our local economy stay strong.
A very frightening statistic. And here in Santa Fe, as those of you attending probably know, we have a great farmers market. It's a lot of vendors, not as many once it gets colder, but I can never go back to buying tomatoes at the store anymore. They don't taste good anymore. I can't go back. It's so good.
Yeah, you can taste the difference, right? There's some things that are just, you just can't, they don't taste the same. I've recently found an amazing business that makes their own honey and dried honey. So they put that with their coffee and they put it in different things. And I love to bake with it. I think it's wonderful when you can be able to plug into your local farmers market and find those vendors, find those makers who are using, local produce, and people are doing so many amazing things nowadays. So definitely support local farmers markets for sure.
Yes, agreed. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start cooking, but may be intimidated, maybe never really tried their hand using multiple ingredients? Any advice for the new cook, chef?
Oh, that one, I would say try to recreate one of your favorite fast foods, because you have found if you do that, it's like you're challenging yourself, right? So I would encourage you to try to recreate one of your favorite meals. So for example, let's say you enjoy going to Chipotle and maybe you love their steak and fajita bowls, their burrito bowls. Try to make it yourself. Go to the store, get your favorite ingredient. You already know what goes in it because you select it. Get the things that you would use to make that and try to recreate it. Reverse engineer it even. You can look at some of the salsas that they use, the corn, the tomatillo salsa. You can make your own, and there are plenty of resources online. Of course, there's the Living Full Cookbook if you haven't got it yet. I have a recipe for quick sour cream. and making your own chili, making your own, I have a steak marinade in here as well. And just playing with some of these ingredients and recipes. And it can be intimidating if you don't normally cook, but to recreate something that you love, I think that's a fun challenge for anybody out there who's intimidated.
That's a super fun way to start. I want to try this.
Yes.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Isn't that fun? And get people involved. That's what this whole thing is about, is getting the family involved, have a competition, who tastes better, or who can recreate this better. If you like Taco Bell, recreate some make your tacos. And there's just some fun ways. And I'm not saying every meal has to be prepared from home. Not every meal, but again, as often as you can, these are just little fun ways to make it more interesting, making it fun.
Yeah. You've talked a lot about your family and your grandmothers, but I want to let everyone know that there are amazing photos of all the meals. And then there are also beautiful photos of your family throughout your cookbook. So I just want to ask who in your life or what figures have shaped you as a person and your work and your life in your kitchen.
Yeah. Well, my grandmothers, I did mention before, have had a hand in raising me, and they were both very different, but they were alike in a lot of ways. One spoke English dominantly, the other spoke Navajo dominantly. And so both of them had their own talent. They had their own ability and creativity. And so when I would spend time with them, I would learn more about soups with my father's mother and learn more about baking. She did a lot of cakes and soups. And then with my grandmother on my mother's side, my shamasana, she was good at making stew and blue corn mush and cooking with blue cornmeal. And so being able to get a variety of skills just by watching and even helping, I think really gave me a lot of skills to try different things on my own. And that's the way it was growing up. My grandmothers, my mother, my father, they were all very supportive of me playing around in the kitchen, making a mess. And if something didn't taste good, nobody ever said anything. We just all grew up in a home where everybody was grateful for what we had. And a lot of the foods that my grandmothers had prepared were foods that were given them, whether it was a commodity food or it was, something that was from their local market. It wasn't anything fancy. It was very simple. But they emphasize love. They emphasize the importance of cooking and using what you have. So my grandmother, and I tell the story of this in my cookbook. I'll tell this one story. My Shanella, my grandmother, again, she was really good at making soups. And so one day we had this soup at her house, and I was like, Gram, this is so good. What did you put in it? And she was like, oh, trash. And she had this sense of humor, and I just was like, what? And she said, meaning I just used what I had. She would put in like noodles and stewed tomatoes. And there was even like I think at one point she had like spaghetti noodles, and another one was like, she had mutton in it. And it just was like the best soup. And I was like, I would have thought to put spaghetti in my soup, She just made what she had, and it tastes the best. And I don't know if it's because she made it, but we used to call it stone soup. And that's the story I tell in the cookbook, because it didn't have a name. This soup that I loved and the family loved so much, it didn't have a name. So I remember reading this story as a child, and you might have it in your library, called Stone Soup. Have you read it before or heard of it before?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh,
it's my husband's favorite book from his childhood.
Oh, yes. That was my favorite book too. And, the story it goes like this. There's two strangers that meet. There's a young boy who was hungry, and all he had was a stone. He goes to this woman's house, an older woman, and she's like, I don't have anything, to make soup. And so he says, well, I know a recipe. So they put their heads together and they make this incredible soup with one stone. And of course, she ended up having all these ingredients that the young man had for his recipe, and they made this incredible soup, and they were two strangers, and they enjoyed the soup. So I told my grandmother, I said, I'm calling this stone soup. So the family started referring to her soup as that. And that's just the way I grew up. I grew up with using what was in our pantry, what was around. I really didn't have any cookbooks. I didn't have access to any cookbooks really until I got out of college and I became interested in it. I just learned from hands-on life experience. And so that's what influenced me from the very beginning, is watching my grandmothers, watching my mother, watching my father, and them including me in it in one way or another.
Oh, thank you. I love that so much. I
think that's amazing. You read Stone Soup. That makes me so happy.
Oh, it still gets pulled from our library shelves. We definitely still have it in circulation.
That's amazing.
And I going back to your table setting illustrations in your book and setting explanations, why you would set it this way or that way, as well as the menu ideas for serving a crowd. So awesome. I've never fully understood how to set a table correctly, so I'm so stoked to have that in my pocket. It's very helpful for someone like me. Yeah. So now my question is, how important is it to have your proper table placements and to plan ahead for serving a crowd?
So the table placement idea came about when I started to attend more conferences and in my professional career. And before, it didn't really matter. I had taken, I don't want to go too far back when I was in high school, because I had a home ec class, and that's probably when I first learned about table settings. But when I started to go to conferences in my professional career and we would have luncheons, I just felt regal whenever we had a place setting. The plates, the soup, the salad bowls, and the lineup of the forks and the knives, the butter knives, the steak knife, the dessert spoons, the teas, the mugs. I just loved it. I loved the way it made me feel. It made me feel special. And so I wanted to include that in there because I wanted you to be able to make your family feel special on that special occasion. And I'm saying to set it up that way for every meal on a weeknight, but I'm saying you could use it for a date night. You could use it for that Christmas meal or that special occasion for you and your family to enjoy. But it's just nice to have some of those little tips and tricks. And really, I put a variety in there. So there's the formal setting, the buffet style, and the family style. And I really do encourage you to use, mix and match and use a variety of the style, because it's really what fits you and your family. So whatever's important to you, do that. And don't try to overdo it, because, these are just some fun things that you can incorporate when you are hosting a meal, because that's what we've always done as a family. We've always set the table. And I think that when you set the table, it's like saying, have a seat, it's set. Don't worry about anything. It's, food is going to be out in a minute and everybody's just going to enjoy. So again, including the family on doing that, setting your table, decorating your table, and making it special for you and your family, I think makes for a better dining experience overall.
I could definitely see that. I like that.
Yeah.
And of course, who doesn't want to feel regal once in a while?
It does feel really nice just to set up. And to answer your question about feeding the crowd, I have had some dinner parties and I love it. I love to gather my family. I'm actually having my kitchen constructed right now to have a double oven because we're gonna do quite a bit of baking for Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. And I just love serving. I love to create an experience for my friends and my family. And so feeding a crowd, I just laid out some tips and tricks that I like to use when it comes time to planning a meal, a dinner party, because there is some preparation that goes into it. That's not something you want to just dive into, the day before. It actually, a week before is a good, I would say, time that you can start planning and making your grocery list and creating a music playlist and setting up for your table and your decor and creating a menu and doing all that fun stuff. So I definitely wanted to include that if you do plan to cook for a larger party.
That sounds smart. So what is your favorite meal to serve your family?
Oh, my favorite meal, I would say, would be red chili, New Mexico red chili enchiladas with the red chili powder. Yes. I have family send that to me because I don't have access to it out here in Texas, but it seems to be something that's available year round. And so we're coming into that season of, okay, we're post-hatch chili season. So bring on the red chili. And the New Mexico enchiladas is my favorite. It's my family favorite. That cheesy, gooey warmth, that comfort food is really I just love it when my children dive into it. I do a mild version, and it to me just makes me proud. It makes me feel like a proud New Mexican. It makes me feel proud that they're learning about our culture, because whenever we cook cultural foods, I love to share with them about their grandfathers, their great grandfathers, their grandmothers, and where we come from, and so they're learning about that as well as whenever we cook our cultural cuisine at home. But that's one of the requests that they have, and they love it. They just love. There's nothing in the pan afterward, and that just makes my heart full.
I believe it. It sounds really good right now.
It does.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you make it more mild? How do your children handle heat? But
yeah,
sounds like you tweak it for their palate.
Yes, there are ways. There are ways to do that.
Yeah. What is the strangest food request you've ever gotten from your family?
Oh, well, I'll use my children for an example. My son, Timmy, is a total foodie. He loves just about everything that we put in front of him. He's always been a thriving boy. His growth has always been off the charts, and he's only 5. He will be 6 in a couple of weeks, but he definitely has an appetite of an older child. But he is healthy, and I'm so grateful that he has a healthy appetite. And he always requests toast. And so in the middle of the day even. And so one day I just thought, you know what, I kind of got tired of feeding him peanut butter and jelly. Let's just have fun with it. Let's just make toast. And so instead of jam, let's use fruit. So we put, we used the peanut butter. We kept that. And then we added banana slices. And then we added something crunchy. We put pumpkin seeds, and then we would drizzle it with honey. So that was like our substitute for no sugar, all natural in the bananas, the sweet. And then of course the honey was just a very light drizzle. And we topped it with cinnamon. And so that was his all-time favorite snack all summer long. He still asks for it. It's in the cookbook, and I call it Timmy's Toast. And so that's kind of a strange request. He says, "Mom, make my toast." So that's kind of fun. And that's unique to him and to our family. And I think he feels super special that we named it after him. And so that was kind of a strange request in the beginning. He just wanted toast. And of course, I had to jazz it up a little bit.
It sounds really good. I would never think to put pumpkin seeds on toast.
Yeah. It's actually pretty good. You should try it.
I'm going to, definitely. So what's the one kitchen item or device that you wouldn't want to cook without?
Oh, okay. So I thought about this one, and I thought mixing bowls. Mixing bowls are a must, because I thought, well, if I didn't have any other kitchen tools, let's say I am out in the middle of nowhere and I need to put something together, I would need a bowl to put things together. And I was thinking salad, dough, like you can put anything in a bowl. You can marinate things in a bowl, and you can whisk things together or use your hands. So I thought if I didn't have anything else, I need at least a bowl, because I can use measurements with the palm of my hand. I don't need measuring spoons, and I was thinking about it really hard. And I thought, I really can't go without mixing bowls. So
that makes total sense. Yeah.
Can't do without. Especially Navajo, Navajo families, we always have that one tortilla bowl, we make the bread or tortillas or fried bread dough. We got to at least have one good mixing bowl. And, if push comes to shove, if we don't have a rolling pin, we have these.
Very true. So I just have a few more questions.
Okay.
What does living full mean to you?
Yeah, it's just a central theme that came to me one evening after I think we were nearing the finishing the cookbook, and I needed to finalize the title. And I was already working on my business plan for my company, Living Full Company. And I wanted to call it Living Full because it's living from that place of abundance and being full of not just good food, but laughter, the things that family bring, the things that having a relationship with your family brings you, and that makes you feel full. And that's just the best way I could describe it. I thought, how does my family make me feel after we have a meal, after we laugh, after, and it's that feeling of being taken care of. And really that feeling of you're just not lacking anything, you're just grateful. And so I knew that was going to be something that not only I could relate to, but that other people can relate to as well, not just culturally, but other cultures as well. Because when we gather, we understand family, and when family gets together, it just gives you that warm feeling of home, security, safety, feeling a part of something that, is special to you. And so I knew that I wanted to call it Living Full Cookbook, because that's exactly what this cookbook, it's just a result of our family dynamic and how it feels when we come together.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So besides the shelves at Santa Fe Public Library and other public libraries, where can people find copies of your book, as well as other products that you sell, like your jams or your granolas, and you have kitchenware for sale as well?
Yeah, we just started. We recently came back from Gallup, New Mexico. We did a book signing. We did a pop-up shop, which was our first Living Full Company pop-up shop. And it did great. One of the things that I wanted to do was provide products that are eco-friendly, non-toxic, homemade, natural, and those things that make home and life abundantly good. And so that's been my slogan when it comes to the product side of things. But for the cookbook, all of it is going to be available online. So we don't have a physical retail space, but everything is going to be online. So like I said, we just got back from Gallup. We're going to be uploading some of the products that we have on our website, and that's at www.livingfullcookbook.com. And that will take you, when you click shop now to get the cookbook, it'll take you to livingfullcompany.com. So you could actually go to both sites. Both will have a shop button, and you can see we have the cookbook available. I have it here in hardcover. I have it in the coil bound. So depending on how you look or use a cookbook, this is really good for a coffee table piece or putting in a cookbook holder to stand upright. Or the coil bound is good if you want to open it and lay it completely flat on the countertop, for example. So it just depends, it's up to you how you like to use it, but that's where you can find the cookbooks. We also have the e-edition. So again, at livingfullcookbook.com, you can choose your format. If you want to like me, you know, we use technology in the kitchen. You can download it to your digital device and access it immediately. So we just wanted to make it accessible to as many people as possible. So those are the 3 ways that you could get the cookbook.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's a beautiful
Sure.
website too.
Oh, thank you
Well
so
put
much.
together. Yeah.
Thank you. We took that shot on the main website. We took that in Old Town Albuquerque. Yeah. I love the color down there. It's so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I'll have to come visit you in Santa Fe next time we're out there.
You will. Maybe we can do a cooking demonstration at one of our libraries with you.
Oh, that sounds
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. And we are doing more of those. So for Native American Heritage Month, we are doing more cooking demonstrations. If you go to our social media pages on Facebook at Living Full Company LLC, and we're on Instagram at Living Full Co. And we have all the information and updates. I just posted my schedule yesterday. So this coming Saturday, we will be with Octavia Felon Public Library, Gallup, and I'm doing a virtual baking demonstration. We're going to be making blue corn tea cookies with piñons. So that will be fun. And then the following week, we have some more virtual demonstrations and another cookbook signing here in Texas. So we're just really excited to get this message out about family meals. I think people are really responding to it. They see the need for it to strengthen our families, and to strengthen our relationships, because, I mean, we just face it. There's just so many things that are, that are keeping us from doing the things that really matter. And so this really helps families to be inspired to make family meals and to disconnect from their busy lives and plug in with each other.
Definitely. Thank you. If anyone who's attending this evening wants to ask a question or make a comment, feel free to write that in chat or Q&A, or you may raise your hand. We can unmute you. But definitely check out Dr. Lisa Platero Brown's social media sites. They are very inspiring and will inspire you to get in the kitchen and be with your family and go to the farmer's market. So yeah, you're on Instagram, Facebook, and you have the livingfullcookbook.com. So I encourage everyone to check that out. It doesn't look like we have any questions right now. So I just want to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring this event, but mostly a million times thank you, Lisa Platero Brown, for providing this program for our community members and creating this beautiful book all about meals and family. And I really appreciate you sharing that with everyone.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you to the Friends of Santa Fe Public Library, the city of Santa Fe. When you reached out to me about this occasion, I was overjoyed because I know that the people in the community are those that we want to reach. And it's people like you and me that want to help to spread a positive message. And, and again, being Native American Heritage Month, I think it is important to continue to share and highlight the positive stories and the things that make us unique and that make our culture, beautiful. And I'm just so happy that the library is sharing these type of webinars because, as Native Americans, there are many media outlets that define us by our historical trauma, but there are places like you and places like the Santa Fe Public Library and people like you who are sharing these stories and highlighting, the positive. And I'm so glad that we're not being defined by our trauma, but by our talent, that we are changing the dialogue, that we are shifting our focus from, the history to make from the bad history to shifting it to having a positive perspective and reshaping our history so that we can have better communities, stronger communities, for our children and for our children's children. So thank you in allowing me to share this project with you. And I wish you the best, and I look forward to next time.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful. And we'll stay in touch, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All my best to you and everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Everyone stay safe, read books, and check out the Living Full Cookbook. We have it on our shelves here at the library. Buy a copy online and enjoy your family mealtime. So take care.
Enjoy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.